I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. You share God's will for happiness for you, and you accept it as your function now. Thanks for joining us. Today we're looking at lesson 102 from the Course in Miracles workbook. And God's will for me is perfect happiness. We were looking at that yesterday. And now, and in the release yesterday, we started to open up to sharing God's will for happiness for us. And this lesson starts out by looking at suffering and our choice to suffer. This is really interesting as we study the material, the course. If you haven't checked it out yet, I'd highly suggest reading Letting Go of the Pathway of Surrender, and also checking out the Sedona Method, Your Key to Lasting Happiness, Success, Peace, and Emotional Well-Being by Hale Dwoskin. These books will help you a lot with understanding this process. It goes extremely well with the Course in Miracles. That's why we put it together. Thank you, Jonathan, for that suggestion so long ago. This temptation to use guilt and sin and suffering and pain to try and buy the clearing of karma, which strangely enough it actually does, though I believe that there is an easier, softer way. And so if we look at our lives, our lifetimes, if you just look at the human realm that we are in right now, this earth realm, this version of it, and you see how much negativity has kind of been kicked around here. So there's been lots of stealing, killing, raping, all kinds of disaster in human interactions with each other. And we take a look at that and we see that, wow, there's been a lot of negativity. And this probably isn't my first lifetime here. And so, what I might set up for myself is, okay, I'm going to go through the negativity that I put others through so that I can clear that karma, so that I can relieve that guilt. So it's pretty safe to assume if something's negative is happening to me, negative, painful, some kind of suffering, that I have set up a karmic debt that I'm trying to pay off with this suffering. So somebody's really mean to me, and I say, oh, well, I was probably really mean to somebody else. Maybe not in this lifetime, but in another lifetime I'm not aware of at all. I break my leg, and I might see that, okay, in another lifetime, I cut somebody's leg off or something. I don't know. What am I clearing this karma for? Like, so I'm believing that suffering and pain is buying me the permission to be happy, to be free. Mm. Okay, so there's this idea that I am willing for myself suffering, that I may be relieved from suffering. And what we want to do in the releasing process is to allow ourselves to feel that guilt or that suffering without the externalized event and let it go. So I share God's will for happiness for me. I thought that this suffering would purchase me happiness. I thought that by going through this accident, by going through this trauma, that I would purchase happiness, that then I'd be allowed to be happy. Now I'm going to choose to be happy directly. I will let go of this guilt or this sense of sin or wrong, and that I may just be happy without needing to go through the suffering or pain. It's weird. This is not very popular. This is not popular opinion at all. But in the releasing process, it's like, why? I work with people and I'm like, why? And I look at myself as well. Look at this valuing of suffering. Look at this choice to suffer. And it's just a choice. It's just a choice. Okay, now I've beat myself up enough. Now I can move on and be happy. So for this release, we're going to look at I share God's will for happiness for me. I, I accept it as my function now. And where have I been choosing suffering as my function? And could I let go of this guilt, this idea that I deserve suffering? Mm. So, if you guys could be open and look at anywhere that you think you still deserve suffering and are choosing that as your function instead of happiness, could you just go through whatever that energy is that would say, I still need to punish myself, I still need to suffer, and release it so that you can really be in this place of sharing God's will for happiness for you? Now, what this lesson says is you uh, you still believe a little that suffering is buying you what you want. And while the suffering, that belief is shaken, it's still there. And I really appreciate that because that gives us permission to go and find that belief and let it go. Because there's going to be a temptation to just jump right over this stuff and not go in and not clear this stuff and have to unconsciously clear it later. This is becoming conscious and just going for it right now. Uh, Pain is purposeless with no power to accomplish anything. It doesn't purchase anything. So, pain and suffering and sin and guilt is purposeless. It has no power to accomplish anything and it doesn't purchase anything for you. It doesn't offer you anything. So, let's let it go. We've been a slave to nothing. Be you free today to join the happy will of God. You must make the decision for yourself, or you get to make the decision for yourself to relinquish using guilt, sin, suffering, and pain to buy God's approval. So let's do some releasing. I share God's will for happiness for me. God approves of me, loves me, created me like Himself. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. So we just tell ourselves this throughout the day. I share God's will for happiness for me. He created me like Himself, loving, merciful, beautiful, perfect in every way. Happy, joyous, and free, I share God's will for happiness for me. And just you can just let that frequency carry you and carry you right through any examination of any belief that sin or suffering or guilt or penance is good for you, is what you want, is going to get you what you want, going to buy you something. Can you see where you're still valuing suffering, guilt, penance, or sin? And this might be subconscious, it might be pretty tucked away or hidden, or it might be overtly obvious. Where are you still believing suffering is valuable? Pain is a good idea. Punishing yourself is going to get you what you want. Is there anywhere you're still believing that? And to just open up to that, and in God's will, and sharing it with Him for your happiness, could you allow yourself to just bring it up and release it? Wow. Yep. Okay. I'm still thinking that I need to suffer. Pain is good for me. Could I release that? Could I let that go? Could you let that go? And it's just a yes or a no. You don't have to. Would you let that go? And it's just a chance for now. When could you let go of this belief that suffering or pain will get you what you want or are justified? And just return to this truth that God's will for you is perfect happiness and sharing that with Him. Suffering and pain offers you nothing. Be you free today to join the happy will of God. And this is wild because I hear people say, well, if it was up to me, I wouldn't choose to punish myself with this happening and this happening and this happening. And I say, oh, sweetheart, you are too powerful for anything to be done to you. You must choose it. And it was probably unconscious. And the amount of unconscious, sometimes conscious, guilt and belief that sin is real and punishment is a good idea and pain will buy us our freedom is just rampant. So, could you allow yourself to just say to yourself, I share God's will for happiness for me. I am ready to relinquish this belief that suffering will get me what I want. And just opening up. And could you notice where you are still believing suffering is a good idea, pain has a purpose, a belief in guilt and sin as a way to love or God? The ego twists things very severely. So could you just open up any sense that pain has a good purpose? Suffering seems like a good idea. And it's so interesting when I was looking at this, like, wow, this is really ingrained. Like, I've really been programmed with this. And to just open that up, God's will for me is happiness, and I share God's will for happiness for me. I accept that as my function now. I'm ready to let go of pain and suffering being a good idea. I'm ready to let go of guilt and sin and just opening up and letting that go. And you can even do so happily. But guilt would say, no, 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 I can't let this go. I'm bad, bad, bad me. I still haven't punished myself enough yet. I still haven't gone through enough pain and suffering. Oh, and so could you just continue to let go? It's okay if not. Continue to let go of the pain and suffering seeming like a good idea, guilt and sin seeming like a valuable companion. And to just go through it happily, perhaps. Happy to have the opportunity to let this go and share God's will for perfect happiness for you. Would you let go of sin and suffering, guilt and penance, seeming like a good idea? Belief in its value. And just letting that go as best you can, because you share God's will for happiness for you and you accept it as your function now. And don't let me tell that to you. It's really if you want to tell that to yourself. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. Love created me like itself. Light created me like itself. Forgiveness is my function, and I forgive myself. To bring peace to my mind and all minds through letting go of sin and guilt and suffering and pain, and believing that those are valuable. I am free today to join the happy will of God. And I'm still open to really looking at where I'm still believing or carrying a belief, a program that suffering and pain is a good thing and is valuable, and I should use it to buy happiness. If I go through enough pain here, if I have enough suffering, then I can be happy. Mm. So I may want to punish myself for any number of lifetimes of errors, mistakes, but that is not God's will for me. Punishment is not God's will for me. God's will for me is perfect happiness, and I share God's will for happiness for me. Let me look at any more belief that I need to punish myself, suffer, or go through pain to be happy with God. Hmm. This is a great one. Releasing this belief may have some pretty big shifts in our frequency. It's a very popular belief that suffering's a good thing and it gets us what we want. Could you let this go? Could you surrender, give up the belief in suffering, punishment, pain, being valuable, a way to get what you want? Could you surrender that to God? Along with any of this feeling, there's a feeling there of, oh, how could I have done that? Whether you're conscious of what you did or not, it's all just an illusion. Could you surrender this feeling, this belief that suffering's a good thing, and is going to get you what you want, could you surrender that to God? And discover that you'll practice this lesson without even trying when you no longer believe that pain is valuable and suffering is a good thing. You'll let go of that right away instead of holding on to it and drawing it out. Would you surrender the belief that suffering is a good thing or valuable to God? Oh, it's so deep. No, no, I'm not going to surrender that. I'm going to hold on to it. And that's what it says. We're still, well, the belief is shaken, but we're still hanging on to a little bit. If you're still hanging on, that's okay. To just continue to surrender as best you can. And whenever you're ready, letting go of the belief that pain is valuable, suffering's a good thing, and that beating yourself up will get you what you want. Could you let that go and experience God's will for you, being perfect happiness, and sharing God's will for you? I share God's will for happiness for me. I let go of valuing sin and guilt for eternity and punishing myself. I choose to accept my function of sharing God's will for me, perfect happiness, divine love, infinite mercy and patience, compassion and kindness. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. And just reminding ourselves of that throughout the day today. And anytime it seems like a good idea to buy what you want with pain or suffering, to value sin or guilt, and claim the need to carry it any longer, to just allow that to come up and let it go, to look at it and set it free. You don't need to fight that belief. It's just a choice to let it go. So thank you so much for letting go of valuing suffering a little bit today, and for accepting and sharing God's will for happiness for you today. Have the best day you can.